welcome Constance Hood, Connie, the author of Into Dark Corridors. Thanks for being here with me today, Connie.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a
Yeah.
wild and woolly tale.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And so I wanted to open with the video because it shows pictures of the house. Your memoir is autobiographical, creative nonfiction, and it's the story of love and loss and how your life over the course of about a decade,
Yeah, 7 years.
wow, got wrapped up in this big home. So tell readers a little bit about this book.
Okay, well, there are times when something happens to you that it's so big, so outrageous that everything in your life is changed. There just is, it happens, it grabs you all the way through to the core, and the only thing you can do is go with it. And in this case, it was meeting up with his old house, seeing these gorgeous bones underneath the filth and the vandalism, having grown up in old houses, deciding, oh, this has to be saved. This is not an option. Someone has to save this house. I thought that I could maybe find a millionaire who would like to do it. And I went to all the heritage properties in LA, and what I got instead was a tutorial on how to do this.
Oh my gosh.
And then people just started kicking in their expertise. Actually, everything except for cash, people kept kicking in their expertise and bringing me this and bringing me that and the how-tos, and away we went.
That's crazy. I mean,
it's
yeah.
Totally crazy. Yeah, I had a huge career. I had a little kid, a straying husband, for God's sakes, and it somehow happened anyway. Oh, and as my friend who writes the foreword said, unemployment, earthquakes, ghosts, and a family of owls. I mean, why not?
Right.
And she's retired from our National Historic Trust, National Park Service, where she spent her entire career working with old houses of famous people.
Oh, wow.
And how do you keep them up, and how do we preserve the past for us?
Yeah. And now, is the house on the National Historical Register now?
No, it's not a nationally registered house, but it is a Los Angeles cultural heritage monument.
Wow. So your descriptions of the house and the damages done to it, and all that you endured while making it livable, made me very anxious while reading it. My husband's a builder, and we moved into a house that needed an awful lot of work, but nothing compared to moving a house to a new location and then having to put it all back together. So although you grew up in a family where fixing up homes was what you did, the experience of cutting the house in two and moving it must have taught you a lot about home ownership. Can you share about that?
Yes. It turned out that all the things I knew how to do were surface things. I knew how to do surface, and the man who walked into the story in chapter 23, Chet, he's a good mechanic. We actually were standing there with two pieces of a house we have no idea what to do. It turned out that contractors also had no idea what to do, but we lucked out. It's one of these, there's fortunate and unfortunate events. Our councilman sent a senior inspector with the city to us, and he had actually moved a house. And what he said is, okay, we're going to take this one step at a time. And this is what I learned about this: one thing at a time and keep moving. Mm-hmm. And he said, okay, first you're going to try this. And we'd look at some mess that we had no idea what it was. And he says, you're going to try this. This is the way to do it. He would do a pre-inspection. Then he would send out his people to check, is this connected? Is this strapped? because the first thing we had to do is we had to strap the whole thing together, and that's a hammer and nails job.
Right.
You've got steel straps and you have some custom made steel plates and you have to strap it together.
Yeah.
And so it just worked. It went sort of a piece at a time. But the biggest thing I learned about restoration, which I thought I'd worked in my whole life, was keep moving. Just keep it going. And my mom then, she said that yes, with our old houses, that she made sure she did something on them every single day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The process and taking care of your home is one thing, but you were also living outside of it and then living in it while it was needing these repairs. So the story is just absolutely, heart-wrenching to me, just like, oh my gosh, I wanted you guys to be able to move in and have it not be raining in the house and those kinds of things.
Oh yeah. It was the second most difficult year of my life.
I imagine.
It really was a time of great difficulty, and everything was up in the air. Everything was in conflict. And I just saw a recent comment from somebody about, well, after all of that upheaval, you may end up in the place you were meant to be. And that is indeed what happened. But oh, good heavens.
Yeah, what it took to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people often talk about ghosts in older homes. And in the book, you reference more than one sighting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this was, something I hadn't really thought about until this point in my life. I hadn't really, people would talk about sightings, people as in a place, but there were a lot of incidents where my grandfather, who had been gone for about 15 years at that point, where he appeared one incident after another. And it wasn't just memories of him. Finally, at one of the events, I'm just going to go ahead and read a section of a true event. And there's a good half dozen of them. The carpenter announced that the downstairs floor joist shattered during the move. Ma'am, that's going to cost a lot for the 2x8s. First, the foundation sills, now this. I turned my head, blinking away the dust, left the room. A long walk might help me figure this mess out. Headed downhill into the fields of dried wildflowers, took a little shelter in the cool barn, a great place to fuss and fret alone. Not even enough energy to panic or cry. The barn stood empty, not even a bird or rat to stir the silence. I startled, felt the tap on my shoulder, heard my grandfather's whistle, the same sound that pierced the air as he called us kids to work projects. Rolled my neck, looked up at the ceiling, a ray of light pointing through the barn roof, rafters, 2x8s. I received grandfather's message. Boots turned in the dust and I tore out of the barn, raced back up the hot dirt path to where Chet hammered shingles in place. Chet, come here. He dropped the hammer, looked for the emergency. Down in the old barn, scavenging for tools, I heard my grandfather laugh. He tapped me on the shoulder. I felt him.
Yeah.
That stuff was going on all the time.
He was helping you.
Yeah. No, there were real feelings and sightings that happened all the time. A hilarious sort of sidebar to this, at an earlier draft of the book had alternated between my voice and the house voice, because I could hear that house talking, and I mean talking a blue streak to me all the time. And so did Chet. He would hear this.
Huh.
And my agent took a look at this and she said, we can't do it. The house voice is too distracting. It takes out of your total narrative. So I took the whole thing, filed it, put it to the side. And I announced over a dinner one night to old friends something about, yeah, my agent said houses can't talk. And my friends just looked at me and said, bull. Sort of like, we all heard that house talk. She talked all the time.
Yeah.
So there it was this old house that spoke to me, and then spoke to this wonderful young man who I didn't even know him. I mean, you saw that's a 5-day romance, and boom, I'm married. And I'm just, I haven't even gotten rid of the first husband. What the heck?
Yeah. Sounds like,
but he heard it too.
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that was actually why Sheila thought that I should talk with Blackbird, because she sort of, yeah, a lot of people write about ghost fantasies, but you've just actually sat in the room with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I know people, I have had experiences too. And so I totally believe it. I'm sure that the house and your guardian angels, your grandfather, were there helping you right along.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this whole thing of not knowing how to do some of the tasks, Mr. Casillas would show us how. And then all I did was just go out and learn it. I had done putty since I was a little kid, but I'd never actually removed and set broken glass. Fine, went down, learned how to do it, set 500 pieces.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about the writing part of it.
Yes.
So this is nonfiction, obviously, and it's mostly memoir. How is writing nonfiction similar to, or this type of memoir, how is it similar to writing fiction?
Okay. When I'm writing fiction, and my first 2 books are both classed in historical fiction, I'm all about the characters, and I draw from real people. Even as fiction, you draw from real people, real experiences. Otherwise, you get something that's kind of shallow. Yeah. So you need to know who's there, and what's the problem, what's the risk, what are the ripple effects of their words and actions. So you begin to take a look at these people, what they want, identify the stakes, identify the problem, and go at it from real life. You can always add in details. You can change someone's looks, their names, their relationships, their gender. But I begin with real people. And in this case, of course, going from historical fiction, which were all real people, to this character. This is a real main character. She's greatly changed by circumstances. The journey of the woman in the house together, uprooted, disoriented, failures at every turn, but they keep persisting.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it works. There's a chunk about the persisting that I think gives you what you're asking me here.
Well, I think part of it is just, it's making sure that you have a story arc.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so you need a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yep.
Right. And so that's just as important in this type of memoir as it is in fiction. Yeah.
These 2 sentences where you realize that maybe they're going to make it after all. We'd been pounding foundation posts all day long. I've been swinging a sledge. Mm-hmm. And my friend and I, we'd bolt a post and lift the next timber. And hours later, I leaned my sweating body into a post, smelt new wood, breathed hard, satisfied. And when you see the woman and the post lean together like that,
yeah,
it's going to be, you know that somehow they're going to find a way through.
It's going to be okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes this book really great too, because there's a lot of tension, and but there's also the resolution, and you really need that, at the end, obviously, and parts and along the way too, it's not just like, uphill climb the whole way.
Mhm.
But there's relief, and because the reader needs relief, just as much as the character does,
Well, and the comedy is real. I mean, if you can't laugh, if I'd taken everything seriously, I would have probably just died.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I'm actually in real life trying to plan a suicide that won't mess up my kid, and I just off the two Siamese fighting fish, okay, we're done here.
Yeah.
Suicide's not going to work.
Yeah. So, what would you share about writing memoir with readers and writers?
Okay, get your materials together, a lot of research. I think the biggest is primary source materials. And excuse me, I was a technical writer for 20 years, and I was either that or an English teacher my whole life. But primary source materials are your diaries, journals, love letters, party tapes, photographs, these videos, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And get your materials together and organize it around what's happening here. In
Mhm.
other words, just get it down. Just get that first draft down. Don't worry. And in my case, I don't do an outline until my second draft. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, no, I kind of work that way too.
Yeah, if I'm writing nonfiction like technical proposals, you're always beginning with the outline of the prompts. That's easy. You just respond. But when you're looking at this mess for a memoir, if this mess of a piece of your life, you don't have a sense of direction, only what happened or what you've done. And then you really need to get in there. I talked with a friend who's working on something right now, and I said, Bill, here's the issue. Your character really has to have more layers than an onion. You've got to go peel and peel and peel one thing at a time to figure out what this is really about. And that does not happen instantly. So you got to be patient. It's not like you fill a notebook with your handwritten notes. Okay, I've done my memoir.
Yeah.
Or somebody said, can't you just dictate this into your phone and have it print? And I've said, no.
Yeah.
So that would be the big one, is to get those documents together. And then at that point, you can find secondary stuff, press articles, reports, other artifacts that will support it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's really good advice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I really recommend Connie's book, Into Dark Corridors. It's a very awesome, well-written memoir and story about moving and rebuilding a home. And so thanks for chatting with me today.
Okay, I'm selling everything through Amazon.com just because it's easy for me.
Yeah.
And please do look at my website, www.constancehood.com, for pieces of the book and lots of photos and videos. I'd love to see you there.
Yeah. And if they want to reach out, is there a way that they can?
Right through the website.
It'll
come into my regular email and I do respond.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracey.